Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. In this video, I break down the Squadron 42 monthly report, letting you know all the progress on the single player campaign. As always, a big thank you to all of my patrons and channel members who make these videos possible, in particular to my latest channel member, Thomas Theisel. Thank you so much for the support. And if you do enjoy my content, please be sure to subscribe and hit that like button and tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified when my videos go live. So it's been a couple of months since we had a monthly report, which means the latest reports cover both November and December, so let us dive straight in. For social AI, they worked on the usables element to implement a full cycle of the NPC chow line, which we have heard about in previous reports. This includes NPCs collecting crockery, dispensing food and drink, picking up cutlery, carrying food to a seat and sitting down, and then eating and drinking the food, with the actual food and drink levels decreasing and then clearing up afterwards. Also, the state of the previous usable is necessary for the next one, which means that NPCs can't dispense food unless they have a bowl, and then they can't eat the food unless they have picked up cutlery to eat it with. When I jump into Squadron 42 for the first time, I will be watching these NPCs just to see this happening. The animation team spent the last 2 months working on new FPS weapons, developing EVA traversal animations, medpen blockouts, staggers, Vanduul combat and surrender behaviours, plus it says they've been updating the running animations and locomotion. So I really hope that this means they've been smoothing out the player movement, as it does still feel a little clunky in places, so any improvements there will be great. Now, the character team completed a major polish pass on the characters for Chapter 4. I believe this is the Morrow tour, which I am showing in the background. However, the footage I have is very old and has been drastically improved since this. But the chapter includes the characters Morrow, White, Kelly and Webster. This involved implementing more realistic eye geometry, alongside texture passes and shader improvements, courtesy of the work done by the graphics team. Many Squadron 42 specific outfits, such as the deck crew and bridge officer uniforms, were improved, and the concept artists also worked on an in-game comic book, which sounds very interesting. I know in a recent Star Citizen show, they spoke about potentially bringing reading material into the verse. A comic book would be a great thing to read on a long journey, so I'm really looking forward to reading that. The Squadron 42 audio team continued to make progress on Chapter 4, generating new sound effects content, and worked closely with Squadron 42 composer Geoff Zanelli on new music. The Squadron 42 engineering team continued to support object container streaming, making it easier to set up and testing it on several levels. They also worked to get the firing range working in the Idris, and now NPCs will use it systemically. I cannot wait to get my hands on a firing range in the PU just for target practice with all the various weapons. Hopefully now that it's working in the Idris, they can bring it into the PU, maybe at one of the weapon dealerships. I know they're supposed to have firing ranges. The team also added functionality to detect mission fail states, such as deliberate friendly fire, meaning the player will fail the mission and be taken to a predetermined scene, so don't be shooting your friends in the back. A push to polish levels led to the team fixing several glitches and complete a number of small feature requests. Progress was made on the new hacking mechanic that allows players to bypass security systems, and I'm assuming this is the hacking tier 0, which we will be getting in Alpha 3.13. Hopefully we will get to see a little snippet of how this works on Inside Star Citizen someday soon. Time was spent supporting the Morrow tour, polishing push and pull, working on smooth locomotion, and getting the locomotion and scenes transitions to work seamlessly. The mounted turret was worked on, which allows a fixed size 1 weapon to be fired and aimed via the player's movement, and is a sub-feature of the cooperative locomotion. Now, I'm not entirely sure what that all means, but having a mounted size 1 weapon will be very cool for fending off people on foot, and also set to release in 3.13. They've implemented the FPS radar and scanning and begun working on 0G push and pull locomotion to allow players to traverse space by grabbing and releasing fixed items in the environment. Now, the FPS radar and scanning will be a great addition when that does come. I expect it'll also open up quite a lot of mission opportunities for the mission team, especially for things like bounty hunting and exploration missions, being able to either track and hunt for people or scan people in the streets of, say, ArcCorp for the bounty you're looking for, and for exploration you could have them planet-side searching the planets for certain things. We will see, but I'm excited nonetheless for the FPS radar and scanner. For core engine and physics, the physics team worked on optimizations in November and December, which included an improved method of pre-physicalization for planet terrain patches for use in collision checks and improvements to event queuing. Hopefully this means reducing the possibility of falling through the planet. The first draft of propagating physicalized shockwaves was submitted, and box-shaped physics grids and bullet drag were also added. So some quite interesting stuff there. Sign distance field support was improved, and work continued on soft body deformation. The Vulkan initiative continued with high-level render code refactor and optimizations. For example, the way material constants are uploaded to the GPU was simplified and optimized. I would love to know how far off we are from getting Vulkan implementation. Also, a larger refactor of the shader cache backend system begun. The hair shader received several improvements, such as the ability to disable specular highlights on eyelashes, improved boundary occlusion at hairlines, support for ambient lights in forward shading, and better hair quality during camera cuts. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what all this hair work will look like. Even just a glimpse would be nice, because they've been doing so much work, and it does sound like they're pretty proud of it. For planetary atmosphere rendering, time was dedicated to volumetric cloud rendering. The initial draft was implemented, and work on volumetric cloud shadows made great progress, which will ultimately lead to localized cloud shaping. It's going to be a nice day when we get to fly through some of these clouds, and I do feel that CIG will create something incredible for cloud cover, not to mention when we get the full weather systems coming along. It'll just look insane, and transitioning from in space to planet will be quite a different feeling altogether, I expect. Now, the core engine team spread their efforts over a couple of areas. Firstly, a large number of bug fixes and improvements were completed, such as streaming meshes for animated viz areas, plus various optimizations were implemented in the entity and zone systems, along with component updates. Also, using telemetry from the PU and PTU, the team continued their ongoing investigation into memory usage. This led to the engine-wide memory allocator and tracking system to be substantially refactored and improved. I really hope that this will help them to solve the memory leak issues, as that has been plaguing the verse for quite a while now, so any progress there would be great. To provide an additional performance boost to the servers, the Linux dedicated game servers was switched to monolithic executable to allow the compiler to generate better code, and stress test for object container streaming was added. Now, although I don't know exactly what all of this means in terms of better performance, it's great to hear that they are doing a lot to increase server performance. And lastly, C++14 support was enabled for the entirety of the client server editor and relevant tool projects. For gameplay story, the Morrow Tour was a major focus towards the end of the year. The gameplay section was reviewed regularly, with plenty of interesting feedback given and updates made as required. Also, focus was on minor updates, bug fixing and polishing, which led to various scenes receiving updates based on new assets or requirements from other teams. The graphics team improved stability and fixed bugs in line with the latest internal Squadron 42 milestones, which included many visual improvements. They said the level design team had a productive Q4, aiming to complete a slice of gameplay starting from when the player first arrives on their home ship, being the Idris, I believe, but I'm not entirely certain. This required a collaboration from many different departments and was hugely successful, giving level design the tools and knowledge they needed to complete the rest of the campaign. So it's definitely coming along well there. The narrative team spent time adding more immersive details to Squadron 42. As environments are further dialed in, they made several passes to expand on the props and screens around the world. For example, an inhabitant of a room could enjoy working on art in their spare time, so they have created specifics of what should be seen, like interactable books. I do love how much attention to detail CIG goes into, and it's nice to hear that they are adding more levels of depth to the characters in Squadron 42, giving them interests that will really help you to grow attached to them. Plus, I love the idea of interactable books anyway, so that's a big win. Finally, screens in locations like the flight control room aboard the UEES Stanton needed additional text passes, and development of the Vanduul language progressed, with the team revising the latest updated dictionary. Now, the tech animation team prepared for a large update to the facial rigs, which consisted of a ground-up overhaul of all face assets to enable several long-term initiatives to unite in early 2021, and they also continued skinning and rigging to support both old and new assets throughout the campaign. The UI team created a new system to allow story cutscenes to trigger changes in the UI, which enables them to do things like animate screens in time with characters pressing buttons, or make the screen warning appear perfectly timed with cinematic explosions. They've also created interesting movie-style UI in one of the holo briefings, with floating UI drawing onto the screen, timed to complement what the officer was talking about. And finally, they worked closely with the vehicle team on the new Gladius HUD, which we saw on Inside Star Citizen, with the functional version being built in-game using the 3D UI tech. This new UI, or this new Gladius HUD, looks amazing, and I cannot wait to see the rest of the ships receive their own manufacturer-specific HUDs, but I'm happy to hear that it is now with the Gladius. So to finish with, the visual effects team closed out the year to implement and polish the visual effects for a key location, and this included both epic effects and more subtle details. So there you have it, the Squadron 42 monthly report covering November and December. It is exciting to hear that they are polishing and optimizing Squadron, as well as just going over the campaign to ensure that all the details are there. It really sounds like they are progressing well with it, and although there is still a lot of work and features to be finished up with, I'm excited to see that it is progressing. With that said, expect the PU monthly report breakdown to come hopefully on Saturday, and if you enjoyed my breakdown of the Squadron 42 report, be sure to subscribe and tick that notification bell, and if you can do me a big favour, hit that thumbs up, very much appreciate that. If you want to talk more or have any questions about Star Citizen or Squadron, do come over to my Twitch channel. It is twitch.tv/supermacbrothers Ryan. The links are in the description below. Everybody is welcome. I cannot make these videos without my patrons or channel members, so thank you guys so much for the support. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.